The email arrived at 6:42 a.m. on a Tuesday with the subject line, "Estate liquidation, immediate purchase opportunity." I was making coffee in my apartment. Studio $1,100 per month, 15 minutes from the main shelter, when my phone started exploding. Text after text. Voicemail after voicemail. All from people I'd housed over the past decade asking the same question. Is it true? Are we losing our homes? I opened the email. My sister Sarah had sent it to 847 contacts. Effective immediately, my brother Daniel Martinez's failed charity Haven Foundation enters liquidation. All 12 shelter properties available for purchase. Total value, $22 million. Serious inquiries only. 20% deposit required to reserve property. Wire transfer details below. My hands went numb. The coffee machine beeped. Ignored. Sarah had listed my foundation's properties for sale. Properties that house 2,184 people annually. 12 buildings across the city. Emergency shelters, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing for the chronically homeless. A decade of work. $52.4 million in annual funding from federal grants, state contracts and private foundations. She'd listed it all as bankrupt and was collecting deposits. I scrolled down. 43 people had already replied expressing interest. 7 had sent wire transfers totaling $3.1 million for reservation deposits. My phone rang. Maria Chin, our operations director. "Daniel, what the hell is happening?" Hudges called. "Your sister contacted them claiming the foundation is insolvent and she has power of attorney to liquidate assets." "She has no power of attorney. She has no authority over anything." She sent them documents. Forged documents. They look official. Notarized, legal letterhead, everything. HUD is putting our $18.2 million annual grant under review pending investigation. The room tilted slightly. 10 years. 2,184 people served annually. 89% program efficiency. 89 cents of every dollar going directly to services. Federal recognition for excellence. State housing awards. National best practices designation. All of it about to collapse because Sarah decided I must be a failure and took it upon herself to fix things. There's a psychological phenomenon called projection. People attribute their own feelings and motivations to others. Sarah had always measured success by wealth accumulation. Her tech executive salary was $340,000, her home worth $1.8 million, her car $87,000. My $56,000 salary and studio apartment didn't compute in her worldview. Therefore I must be failing. Therefore she needed to intervene. The gambler's fallacy had driven me for 38 years. The belief that if I just achieved enough, proved enough, sacrificed enough, my family would eventually see my worth. That the slot machine would eventually pay out. Sarah had just set the machine on fire and walked away counting her quarters. By noon I was sitting in our conference room with Maria, our legal counsel, and a conference call connecting to 17 panicked staff members. Federal Oversight Director Catherine Morrison was scheduled to arrive at 2 p.m. to investigate Sarah's claims of insolvency and fraud. "We have every document," Maria said, spreading files across the table. "Every audit report, every 990 form, every grant agreement, every property deed showing foundation ownership, every bank statement proving solvency. It won't matter if HUD freezes our funding," I said quietly. "We have 48 days of operating reserves. If the $18.2 million grant gets suspended, we'll run out of money by mid-January. 2,000 people will lose housing in winter." My phone buzzed. Sarah in the family group chat, finally helping Daniel face reality. His charity is obviously failing. Selling properties before creditors seize them. Already collected $3.1 million in deposits. "Someone thank me for saving family reputation," face with tears of joy. Mom replied, "Thank God you're handling this. Daniel never understood business." My brother Marcus, good riddance to that money pit. About time he got a real job. They were celebrating the potential destruction of 2,184 people's housing because they'd convinced themselves I was incompetent. Catherine Morrison arrived at 1:58 p.m., late 50s federal ID badge, briefcase that looked government issue serious. Her handshake was firm, her expression unreadable. Mr. Martinez. I'm here regarding urgent allegations of insolvency, fraud, and unauthorized liquidation of federally funded assets. Your sister filed a formal complaint with HUD, FinCEN, and the Department of Justice. Everything's documented and ready. Our conference room walls were covered with impact reports, success metrics, photos of residents who'd transitioned from emergency shelter to permanent housing. 10 years of proof that this worked. Catherine set up her laptop. Started reviewing documents with systematic precision. Financial statements, audit reports, grant compliance records, property deeds, bank statements showing $4.7 million in operating reserves and $8.3 million in restricted grant funding. After 40 minutes of silence, she looked up. Your foundation manages $52.4 million in annual funding. Federal grants, $18.2 million. State contracts, $16.8 million. Private foundations, $11.3 million. Municipal funding, $6.1 million. Yes. You serve 2,184 individuals annually across 12 properties. Emergency shelter capacity, 187 beds. Transitional housing, 94 units. Permanent supportive housing, 73 units. Correct. Your program efficiency is 89%. Your outcomes show 76% of transitional housing residents successfully moved to permanent housing within 18 months. Your chronic homelessness intervention program has 84% retention after 2 years. She pulled out Sarah's email. Read it aloud. The claim of bankruptcy. The $22 million liquidation price. $30 million below actual market value. The wire transfer instructions. Your sister has collected $3.1 million in deposits from 7 parties attempting to purchase federally funded properties that she has no authority to sell. Catherine stood up. Walked to our impact wall. Stopped at a photo from 2019 ribbon-cutting ceremony for our permanent supportive housing building. Federal officials, state representatives, the mayor. Me standing in the back row looking uncomfortable in a suit. Her hand came up slowly. Touched a specific face in the crowd. Young woman, maybe 24, holding a home at last sign. That's my daughter, she said quietly. The world stopped. 8 years ago, Emma was living in her car. Mental health crisis triggered by untreated bipolar disorder. Lost her job, lost her apartment, stopped taking medication because she couldn't afford it. She was 23 years old and I couldn't help her because she refused to come home, refused to admit she was sick. Catherine's voice cracked. Professional composure fracturing. Your outreach team found her sleeping in a parking garage. Your crisis counselor spent 6 hours with her, didn't push, just listened. Got her to emergency shelter that night. Your mental health coordinator connected her with county services she qualified for but didn't know existed. Your case manager helped her navigate disability benefits, medication access, psychiatric care. She turned to look at me. Tears in her eyes. She stayed in your transitional housing for 14 months. Stabilized on medication. Started working part-time. Moved into your permanent supportive housing program. 3 years later, she's a peer counselor at a mental health clinic. She helps other people like her. She's alive because of this place. Catherine pulled out her federal credentials. Director of HUD Oversight Western Region. 22 years with the department. I'm here because your sister filed a complaint claiming this foundation is bankrupt and she's liquidating assets to prevent fraud. I'm here because someone accused you of financial crimes involving $52.4 million in federal funding. She sat down. Opened another folder. I've spent 4 hours reviewing every financial document you provided. I've verified your bank statements against grant disbursements. I've confirmed every property deed shows foundation ownership with no liens, no encumbrances, no debt. I've examined your audit reports showing clean opinions from independent auditors for 10 consecutive years. Catherine pulled out an official document, HUD seal embossed. Haven Foundation is not insolvent. Haven Foundation is not bankrupt. Haven Foundation is one of the most fiscally sound nonprofit organizations in my region. You maintain 73 days of operating reserves when federal requirement is 30 days. You operate with 89% efficiency when federal benchmark is 65%. You serve 2,184 people annually with outcomes that exceed national standards. She slid the document across. It had Sarah's email attached as Exhibit A. Your sister Sarah Martinez has no legal authority over this organization. She has fraudulently claimed authority to liquidate $22 million in federally funded assets. She has collected $3.1 million in deposits from 7 parties for property sales she has no power to execute. Catherine's voice went cold. Federal authority replacing personal gratitude. I'm forwarding this to the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. Wire fraud involving amounts over $1 million is a federal felony. Fraudulent sale of government-funded property is a federal felony. Forging power of attorney documents is a federal felony. Your sister is facing potentially 15 to 20 years in federal prison. My chest felt tight. I don't want to press charges against my sister. You don't have to. The federal government is the injured party. She attempted to fraudulently sell $22 million in properties funded by taxpayer dollars. HUD is pressing charges. This is not optional. Catherine pulled out her phone. Made a call. This is Director Morrison, HUD Oversight. I need FBI Financial Crimes at Haven Foundation immediately. Wire fraud, forged documents, attempted theft of federal assets. Suspect has collected $3.1 million in fraudulent deposits. She hung up. Looked at me. Your sister needs to be here. Can you call her? Sarah arrived 42 minutes later with Mom and Marcus. All 3 walked in laughing. That casual confidence of people who believe they've done something helpful. Finally cleaned up your mess, Danny, Sarah said, not even looking at Catherine. Collected over $3 million already. You're welcome for Ms. Martinez. Catherine's voice cut like federal authority. Sit down. Sarah's smile faltered. She saw the credentials on the table. Who are you? Catherine Morrison, Director of HUD Oversight, Western Region. I'm here investigating your complaint alleging Haven Foundation is bankrupt and requires immediate asset liquidation. Finally, Sarah said, sitting down. Someone from the government who understands business. My brother's been running this charity scam for years, barely making. Haven Foundation manages $52.4 million in annual funding, Catherine interrupted. Serves 2,184 people annually. Operates with 89% program efficiency. Maintains $13 million in reserves and restricted funding. It is not bankrupt. It is not insolvent. It is one of the most successful homeless services organizations in this state. The room went silent. But, he lives in a studio apartment, Sarah said weakly. His salary is only $56,000. His salary is $56,000 because that's what the board-approved budget allows while maximizing service delivery. Executive directors of comparable organizations earn $180,000 to $240,000. He could earn 4 times his current salary elsewhere. He chooses this work. Catherine pulled out the email. Showed it to Sarah. You sent this to 847 people claiming authority to liquidate $22 million in federally funded properties. You collected $3.1 million in deposits for property sales you have 0 legal authority to execute. Sarah's face went pale. I was helping. I thought the organization was failing and I was protecting the family from... You committed federal wire fraud, Catherine said coldly. You forged power of attorney documents using stolen notary seals. You attempted to fraudulently sell government-funded assets. You collected millions of dollars in deposits for sales you cannot legally complete. She pulled out her phone. Showed Sarah a text message. FBI Financial Crimes Unit is en route. They're 10 minutes away. Wire fraud involving amounts over $1 million carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison. Attempted theft of federal assets adds another 10 years. Mom stood up fast. This is ridiculous. Sarah was trying to help. You can't arrest her for... I'm not arresting her. The FBI is arresting her. She committed federal crimes involving $22 million in taxpayer-funded housing. Catherine walked to the impact wall. Touched that 2019 photo again. 8 years ago my daughter was homeless and mentally ill. Your son's organization saved her life. Got her medication, housing, stability. She's a productive member of society now because this place existed. She turned back to Sarah. Expression carved from stone and disappointment. You tried to destroy that. You tried to liquidate properties housing 2,184 vulnerable people because you couldn't understand why your brother would choose purpose over profit. Because his values didn't make sense in your framework. Because you measured his success by his apartment size instead of his impact. Catherine pulled out official documents. HUD is issuing public commendation for Haven Foundation. Your brother will receive the National Housing Excellence Award. His work will be featured as a federal case study in effective homeless services. She looked at Mom and Marcus. I reviewed bank records during investigation. Daniel has provided $64,800 in financial support to all of you over 10 years. While earning $56,000 annually. While you believed he was failing and needed to be saved from himself. Sarah started crying. Mom looked sick. Marcus stared at the floor. The FBI will handle criminal charges. The 7 parties who sent deposits will file civil suits against you personally for fraud. You'll spend years in litigation and likely prison. You'll lose everything trying to defend yourself. Sirens approached outside. Catherine gathered her documents. Your brother built something that saves lives. You tried to destroy it because you couldn't comprehend sacrifice for something larger than yourself. FBI agents entered. Badges displayed. Sarah was read her rights. Handcuffed. Let out while crying that she was just trying to help family. I watched it happen. Felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not regret. Just recognition that the slot machine had finally broken completely. 4 months later, Haven Foundation received $6.8 million in additional federal funding. We expanded to 14 properties, 2,847 people served annually. Sarah was in federal custody awaiting trial, facing 18 felony counts. The family group chat was silent. All blocked numbers on my phone. At the awards ceremony in Washington, D.C., Catherine sat in the front row. When I accepted the National Housing Excellence Award, she stood first for the ovation. After I flew home. Drove to our emergency shelter. Tuesday evening, 6:23 p.m. A man stood outside, 40s, garbage bag of belongings, that look of someone who'd run out of options. You have space, he asked quietly. We always have space, I said. Come inside. This was the work. This was worth every dollar I didn't earn, every family relationship I lost, every false accusation I survived. The account with my family is closed. The balance is 0. And I am finally free.